Greg Gutfeld is everywhere these days, dominating late-night ratings, shaking up political talk shows, and now being named one of the top 12 most influential people in America. But while his sharp tongue and bold takes keep audiences hooked, it's his personal life that's leaving jaws on the floor. Because once you see Greg Gutfeld's wife, you will do a double take. Stylish, stunning, and totally unexpected. Let's just say she's not what most people picture when they think Gutfeld's better half. Curious yet? Keep watching because you won't believe who she is and how they met. Who is Greg Gutfeld? Before Greg Gutfeld became one of the most watched and most polarizing voices on American television, he was just a sharp-tongued kid from San Mateo, California, born to Jacqueline Jackie and Alfred Jack Gutfeld. Greg was raised in a Catholic household and attended the all-boys Junipero Serra High School, the same school that counts Barry Bonds and Tom Brady among its alumni. He later headed north to the University of California, Berkeley, where he earned a degree in English in 1987. But while most students at Berkeley leaned heavily liberal, Gutfeld took a very different path. In a 2009 interview, he summed up his political awakening with brutal honesty. "I became a conservative by being around liberals, and I became a libertarian by being around conservatives." His takeaway? Both sides loved to moralize, and he hated it. After college, Gutfeld cut his teeth in conservative media, interning at the American Spectator under right-wing firebrand R. Emmett Tirole. From there, he bounced through the magazine world, first writing for Prevention, then Men's Health, where he eventually became editor-in-chief in 1999. But it was far from smooth sailing. He was replaced just a year later. That setback didn't slow him down. Gutfeld landed at Stuff magazine, where his off-the-wall ideas turned heads and ruffled feathers. Under his leadership, the magazine's circulation jumped from 750,000 to 1.2 million. But his antics weren't always welcome. In one infamous stunt, he hired a team of dwarfs to crash a high-profile publishing conference just to stir up buzz. It worked, kind of. The prank got him media attention, and it also got him fired. He briefly served as director of brand development at Dennis Publishing, then took his talents overseas to lead Maxim UK. Unfortunately, that gig didn't end on a high note either. After a steady drop in readership, his contract wasn't renewed. Still, Gutfeld wasn't out of steam. In 2005, he joined a bold new venture, the Huffington Post, as one of its original contributors. But true to form, he didn't play nice. He took aim at fellow HuffPost writers like Deepak Chopra, Ariana Huffington, and Cenk Uygur, with sharp satirical commentary that made him both loved and loathed. Through it all, one thing became clear. Gutfeld wasn't trying to fit in. He was building a voice, a brand, and eventually an empire. Greg Gutfeld's time at Fox News. Greg Gutfeld has been a loud wild card in the Fox News deck for over a decade. And whether you love him or hate him, you definitely can't ignore him. While Fox is known for its hard-hitting political takes, Gutfeld has carved out a unique lane, younger, edgier, and fueled by a blend of trolling and comedy that pushes boundaries. He didn't start out in the news world, though. A libertarian with a sharp tongue and a background in men's magazines, Gutfeld first made waves in 2003 with a bizarre stunt. He hired 3 dwarfs to loudly eat potato chips during a publishing panel about creating buzz. Wild? Yes. Effective? Also, yes. The New York Times called him a pest who delights in mocking and provoking rivals while also noting his bizarre humor, the kind that might fly over the heads of Times readers. That kind of offbeat style would later become his brand. Gutfeld joined Fox in 2007 as the host of Red Eye, an unpredictable late-night experiment airing at 3 a.m. It was part news commentary, part comedy show, and part chaos. Think The Daily Show meets Adult Swim. There were sketches, inside jokes, absurd recurring segments, and even cat puns hurled at his own editor. The political edge was there, sure, but so was a kind of weird, self-aware humor that broke the mold of traditional conservative media. Critics may have been confused, but viewers tuned in. Red Eye beat its odd-hour competition and proved something big. Conservative audiences were ready for comedy and even nonsense, as long as it came with a rebellious punch. Even The New Yorker admitted the show was mindlessly sarcastic, sneakily smart, patently absurd, and generally refreshing. As internet trolling became political currency and Trumpism redefined the tone of the American right, Gutfeld's chaotic energy started to look less like an outlier and more like a prototype. His earlier antics, once seen as fringe, now fit neatly into the culture of memes, mockery, and media disruption. It's no surprise that Red Eye helped launch figures like Gavin McInnes, founder of the Proud Boys and an icon of right-wing troll culture, into the mainstream. By the time Donald Trump rose to power, Gutfeld had a ready-made audience, one that wanted jokes without lectures, edge without shame, and a host who didn't pretend to play by the rules. His style, which was over the top, snarky sometimes, and even downright bizarre, fit perfectly into the moment. Fox gave him more spotlight, and he delivered time and time again. With the launch of Gutfeld, his nightly talk show, he went from niche favorite to ratings powerhouse. By 2019, he was already outdrawing most other late-night hosts, and by 2021, Gutfeld was beating even The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in total viewers. Yes, you heard that right. A Fox News comedian was topping the late-night charts, pulling in over 2.1 million viewers a night. For Fox News, it was a win on multiple fronts. Gutfeld wasn't just attracting traditional viewers. He was pulling in younger audiences and showing advertisers that the network's appeal stretched far beyond red states. He wasn't just a political commentator anymore. He was proof that conservative comedy could be mainstream, punchy, and profitable, getting his own show. Following the success of Red Eye, it made sense for Fox News to give Greg more shows, and then came The Five. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. That now iconic intro kicks off one of Fox News's most unusual success stories. When The Five first premiered on Fox News, it didn't exactly scream prestige. Initially launched as a temporary fill-in for Glenn Beck's time slot, the show looked like a low-risk experiment. A round table of Fox personalities bantering through the day's controversies. Designed more to fill airtime than to redefine cable news. But in its loose, talk-heavy format, something clicked. What began as a side project slowly morphed into one of the network's most successful franchises. Chaotic, polarizing, and entirely watchable. The premise is deceptively simple. 5 voices talking through the big stories. Each co-host moderates a different segment, selecting either a focused topic or a scattershot of headlines. And the final block, the show's dessert course, is reserved for one more thing. A roundup of viral videos, oddball stories, or personal notes. It's a structure that, over time, proved surprisingly durable. Former Fox chairman Roger Ailes once said, "The inspiration came from The View," though The Five operates with a very different kind of friction. Less coffee-clatch conflict, and more ideological arm wrestling, often with a smirk. Greg Gutfeld, who's been there since day one, embodies the show's tone. A libertarian firestarter with a background in men's magazines and absurdist satire, Gutfeld came to television with a chip on his shoulder and a style rooted in provocation. His earlier show, Red Eye, which aired at 3 a.m., was a surreal, low-budget mishmash of political commentary and unhinged humor. Closer to Adult Swim than CNN. That same blend of trolling improv and smirking disdain for media norms bled into his presence on The Five, where he quickly became the show's most unpredictable and compelling force. Alongside Gutfeld sits Dana Perino, the steady former White House press secretary whose composure offers a counterbalance to the madness. While Gutfeld riffs, mocks, and pokes, Perino reframes, contextualizes, and stabilizes. The dynamic between the two, playful but tense, helped define the show's rhythm. Jesse Waters later joined the mix, injecting the frat boy confidence and ambush journalist persona that made him famous. Waters brought a slicker, younger energy, appealing to an audience primed by Trump-era media to prize confrontation over consistency. But what truly made The Five interesting and occasionally combustible was its inclusion of liberal voices. From Bob Beckel to Juan Williams, Jessica Tarloff to Harold Ford Jr., the show positioned itself as a site of ideological collision. That collision often felt lopsided, with liberal co-hosts outnumbered and outshouted. But it also made for compelling television. Williams, for instance, weathered years of friction with his co-hosts before leaving in 2021, citing a desire to remain in Washington after the show returned to its New York studio post-pandemic. Others left less quietly. Geraldo Rivera, after a series of live on-air clashes with Gutfeld and Waters, was abruptly fired from the show in 2023 and quit Fox altogether, ending a 23-year run with a public blast on Twitter. Then there were the exits that came with scandal. Andrea Tantaros departed after leveling sexual harassment accusations against Roger Ailes. Eric Bolling was let go after being accused of misconduct. Kimberly Guilfoyle left to join Donald Trump's 2020 campaign and eventually became a vocal figure in his post-presidency movement. Each departure added layers to the show's mythos, feeding the sense that The Five wasn't just a show, but an ecosystem. One full of sharp elbows, shifting alliances, and behind-the-scenes turbulence. Despite the drama, the show thrived. Critics at first didn't know what to make of it. Some, like Salon's Alex Perrine, called it dull and unworthy of outrage. But others saw the appeal. Entertainment Weekly's Ken Tucker dubbed it a guilty pleasure, praising its unpredictable tone and delightfully nutty energy. Audiences agreed. The Five regularly topped its time slot, with viewership numbers surpassing more polished, late-night counterparts. What Fox discovered through The Five is that partisanship alone doesn't guarantee engagement, but friction, performance, and personality do. The show offered all three in spades. It became a place where right-wing ideas could be delivered with humor rather than rage, where debate could masquerade as conversation, and where viewers could tune in as much for the spats and one-liners as for any insight into the news. More than a decade in, The Five is still going strong, not despite its unpredictability, but because of it. In a world saturated with cable news panels and political roundtables, The Five stood out by refusing to behave, anchoring itself not just in opinion, but in performance. It didn't set out to change the genre. It just messed with the formula until it accidentally did. The Five Controversies. Despite its loose format, or perhaps because of it, The Five has never shied away from controversy, a defining trait that has kept both fans and critics watching. The show's freewheeling structure, built more like a podcast than a polished news broadcast, invites both spontaneity and the occasional scandal. And over the years, that spontaneity has gotten the show and its co-hosts into hot water more than once. Take Bob Beckel, for example. The longtime liberal voice on the panel was as irascible as he was unfiltered, known for his gruff demeanor and lack of verbal restraint. In one infamous moment from 2011, Beckel attempted to walk back a comment he made about NFL quarterback Michael Vick by declaring on air that redneck wasn't a racial term. Blacks are rednecks, whites are rednecks, I was a redneck, and Chinamen are rednecks. He said the backlash was swift. Beckel was forced to apologize for his use of the ethnic slur, Chinaman, adding to a growing list of moments that highlighted the unpredictable, sometimes off-color nature of the show. The music choices have caused friction, too. In 2011, The Five found itself in an unexpected feud with Maroon 5 frontman Adam Levine. When Levine caught wind that one of the band's songs was being used to lead into a segment, he lashed out on Twitter, prompting a social media war with various Fox personalities who fired back with barbed replies. It was a microcosm of the show's peculiar cultural place, neither fully news nor fully entertainment, but occupying an in-between space where cable politics collided with pop culture in real time. The controversies didn't end there. In 2017, Jesse Waters, then a fresh addition to the panel, faced backlash just 2 days into his stint on the show after making what many saw as a suggestive, inappropriate joke about Ivanka Trump speaking into a microphone. The backlash was swift, and by the next day, Waters had announced he was taking a vacation. The cable news version of a cooling-off period amid mounting calls for his firing. He returned days later, largely unscathed, and today remains one of the show's central figures. And yet the Five didn't just survive these moments, it seemed to feed off them. Controversy gave it oxygen. It was the rare cable news show that felt alive, reactive, and unguarded. That rawness made it a hit. Within weeks of its 2011 debut, it was not only outperforming MSNBC and CNN in the 5 p.m. hour, but actually rivaling the audience that Glenn Beck once commanded in the same slot. By late summer, The Five had become one of the top 10 shows on cable news, a feat that caught many by surprise. Even more remarkably, advertisers, previously wary of Beck's inflammatory style, were more willing to align with the new panel format, giving Fox a win on both ratings and revenue. That early momentum never really let up. In the second half of 2011 and early 2012, this was already the 6th most-watched cable news show. By the third quarter of 2012, it had moved up to 4th place, surging during the Republican National Convention and pulling in a massive 4.4 million viewers on Election Day. The 2013 arrival of The Kelly File temporarily knocked it down a peg, but by 2022, it had roared back with a vengeance. April 2022 marked a watershed moment. The Five officially became the #1 show on all of cable, beating out Fox's own primetime juggernauts like Tucker Carlson Tonight. By the end of Q2 that year, it averaged 3.3 million viewers, a staggering figure for a show that aired outside of primetime. When the dust settled on 2022, The Five had made history as the most-watched non-primetime show in cable news for an entire calendar year, pulling in 3.5 million viewers on average. Even the ouster of Tucker Carlson in 2023, a moment that sent shockwaves through the network and triggered a noticeable dip in viewership, didn't dethrone The Five. While its nightly audience slipped to between 2.5 and 2.7 million viewers, it still reigned supreme across cable, holding the top spot across CNN, MSNBC, and Fox alike. By the close of 2023, it had secured its title once again as the #1 cable news show and the most-watched non-primetime broadcast for the 2nd year in a row. As 2024 unfolded, The Five continued to defy expectations. It averaged 3.04 million viewers in Q1 and made history yet again by becoming the first non-primetime program to top all of cable news for 10 consecutive quarters. Then came July 15, 2024, the day of its highest-rated episode ever. Airing in the wake of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump and live from the Republican National Convention, the show pulled in a staggering 5.5 million viewers, a moment that underscored its enduring cultural gravity. But success hasn't inoculated the show from fresh controversy. In March 2024, co-host Jessica Tarlov, one of the few consistent liberal voices on the panel, found herself in legal trouble after commenting on air that Tony Bobulinski, a former Hunter Biden business associate, was having his legal fees covered by a Trump-affiliated super PAC. Bobulinski quickly denied the claim and filed a $30 million defamation lawsuit against Tarlov. She issued an on-air correction the following day, clarifying that she had no evidence to support that assertion and acknowledging that Bobulinski denied the allegation. Still, Fox has doubled down on the model the Five pioneered. Its success inspired a wave of similarly formatted panel shows, including Outnumbered in 2014, Gutfeld in 2021, The Big Weekend Show in 2023, and a slate of business-focused spin-offs like The Big Money Show and The Bottom Line with Dagan and Duffy. These shows echo the Five's formula: lighter on suits and scripts, heavier on banter and personal chemistry. But none have matched its cultural imprint. In a world where cable news often feels scripted, overly choreographed, or outrageously loud, The Five has carved out its own chaotic middle ground. It's a political show that occasionally forgets it's a political show, a debate that often devolves into a roast, and a news hour that isn't afraid to let its hosts go completely off script. What started as filler has become a fixture, and in the process, The Five has done something very few shows in its category ever do. It made unpredictability a winning formula. Greg Gutfeld's Controversies. Greg Gutfeld, the brash and often controversial Fox News host, is no stranger to stirring up debate. But recently, his headlines have gone far beyond his usual mix of sarcasm and political jabs. From a heated Holocaust comparison that drew the ire of the White House to bizarre on-air remarks about John Krasinski's gender identity, Gutfeld has once again proven that he rarely pulls punches, even when maybe he should. Let's start with what might have been his most incendiary moment to date. During a recent segment of The Five, the popular roundtable-style show, Gutfeld locked horns with his co-host, Jessica Tarlov, over Florida's Black history education standards. Tarlov, disturbed by the state's controversial curriculum that suggested enslaved people benefited from certain acquired skills, tried to draw a parallel with Holocaust history, asking, rhetorically, if anyone would ever frame concentration camps as having taught Jews a strong work ethic. Her point was sharp and emotive. But Gutfeld, never one to let a provocative moment pass, responded by invoking Viktor Frankl's seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. According to Gutfeld, Frankl's survival in Nazi death camps illustrated that utility, being useful, was key to staying alive. It was a wild oversimplification, and it ignited outrage. Critics swiftly accused Gutfeld of grotesquely twisting Frankl's philosophy, and worse, diminishing the horrors of the Holocaust. The Auschwitz Memorial didn't mince words, stating that skills or utility offered no real protection against the gas chambers. Then came the hammer from the White House. In a sharply worded statement, Press Secretary Andrew Bates slammed Fox News and Gutfeld for promoting what he called a dangerous extreme lie. Bates declared unequivocally that there was no silver lining in slavery or the Holocaust. Full stop, he emphasized. No ambiguity, no excuse. And just when you thought the week couldn't get weirder, Gutfeld took a sharp left turn into conspiracy-adjacent territory. During a segment of The Five, the panel started discussing actor John Krasinski's selection as people's sexiest man alive. Gutfeld, in an apparent attempt at humor, made a completely unprompted claim: Krasinski is trans. He doubled down when his co-host, Jesse Waters, responded with confusion, insisting, yes, he's trans. It was a moment so offbeat, even Waters seemed unsure whether it was a joke or a serious assertion. Gutfeld continued the bit with a reference to Krasinski's beard and a strange aside about trans men growing facial hair, all of it dripping with the smug irreverence that is his trademark. But what might have once passed as edgy humor now reads more like a red flag, especially given the current climate around transphobia and misinformation. Gutfeld's comment, whether intended as satire or not, taps into the bizarre and growing phenomenon of transvestigation, a fringe conspiracy theory that aims to expose public figures as secretly trans. What used to live in the darkest corners of Reddit or Telegram channels has started creeping into the mainstream, with public figures like Olympic boxer Iman Khalif, and even actors like Barry Keoghan and Krasinski being casually investigated for no other reason than looking a certain way or not fitting a rigid mold of masculinity. And therein lies the problem. Whether Gutfeld was joking or not becomes irrelevant when the jokes start aligning with real-world bigotry. As much as he thrives on being the provocateur, he's now treading into territory that not only offends, but actively harms, spreading falsehoods, mocking identities, and undermining live histories. These aren't just hot takes. They echo larger, more dangerous ideologies. Still, Gutfeld seems undeterred. The man who once described his marriage to fashion stylist Elena Musa as something he just knew within minutes of meeting her, who keeps his personal life largely shielded behind snappy one-liners and sarcastic asides, is also the guy unafraid to stir chaos on national television. He's the same host who introduced his French bulldog Gus to viewers like a comedic doppelganger, the same pundit who celebrated the birth of his first child with heartfelt joy. But the personal moments, as rare and genuine as they might be, are often drowned out by his increasingly erratic commentary. Gutfeld walks a fine line and sometimes barrels right past it. Whether he's co-opting Holocaust narratives to defend problematic education standards or jokingly accusing celebrities of being trans without cause, he is carving out a space that is, at best, provocative and, at worst, deeply toxic. It's clear he's not going to change anytime soon, but what's becoming increasingly uncertain is whether his audience or his network is willing to keep laughing. Who is Greg Gutfeld's wife? Greg Gutfeld may be one of the most recognizable and outspoken faces on Fox News, but when it comes to his personal life, especially his marriage to Elena Musa, he draws a firm line between public and private. Despite his sharp political commentary and regular TV appearances, Gutfeld's love story is something of a hidden gem, quietly unfolding behind the scenes for over 2 decades. Their story began in 2004, far from the studio lights, on a work trip to Portugal. At the time, Gutfeld was the editor-in-chief of Maxim UK, while Musa worked as a photo editor for Maxim Russia. Sparks flew instantly. Within just 5 months of meeting, the two tied the knot in a low-key civil ceremony in New York City. There were no grand public declarations or flashy magazine spreads, just a quiet, decisive commitment that has endured for more than 20 years. Their early years as a couple were nomadic. Musa moved from Russia to London to be with Gutfeld, and after his Maxim contract ended in 2006, the pair relocated again, this time to New York City, where their careers truly took flight. Gutfeld rose through the media ranks, eventually becoming a key figure at Fox News, while Musa, always stylish and elegant, carved out her own space in the fashion world. A trained stylist, Musa enrolled in the Parsons School of Design in 2015 and graduated in 2017. Her work has since been featured in fashion publications like Venice Magazine, Design Scene, and L'Officiel. With an effortlessly chic sense of style, she even landed on the Cut's list of best-dressed individuals at New York Fashion Week in 2015. Although she maintains a vibrant presence in the fashion industry, Musa remains strikingly private about her personal life. Over the course of their marriage, she has shared only one photo of Gutfeld on her Instagram. Gutfeld himself is similarly discreet. Despite his comedic public persona, his social media rarely ventures into his home life. Occasionally, he offers a glimpse, like the time he posted a black-and-white snapshot of Elena during a lunch celebration for his late-night show's premiere. In October 2022, their tight-knit family grew by 4 paws with the arrival of a French bulldog named Gus. True to form, Gutfeld introduced the pup to his audience with humor, noting that even his wife thought Gus bore an uncanny resemblance to him. The dog quickly became a fan favorite, appearing regularly on The Five in Gutfeld. Then, in December 2024, came their most joyful chapter yet. After 2 decades of marriage, Gutfeld and Musa welcomed their first child, a daughter named Mira. The announcement made through a heartfelt statement on The Five marked a rare moment of public intimacy from the couple. It was a subtle but powerful reminder that behind the satire and style, they are simply 2 people who built a life and now a family together. Their bond was tested in early 2022 when war broke out in Ukraine. Musa's mother, who had been in Ukraine at the time, found herself trapped in the conflict. With help from Gutfeld's colleagues at Fox News, she was safely evacuated to Poland and reunited with her daughter. The emotional ordeal, later shared in a segment on The Five, offered viewers a rare look at Musa's vulnerability and strength. Despite their fame and demanding careers, Gutfeld and Musa have managed to preserve the essence of what brought them together in the first place. A deep connection, quiet loyalty, and a shared sense of humor. Whether it's bonding over a mischievous bulldog or celebrating the arrival of baby Mira, their life together, though mostly off-camera, is full of rich, meaningful moments that show love doesn't need a spotlight to shine. In an industry where oversharing is often the norm, Greg Gutfeld and Elena Musa have chosen a different path, one rooted in privacy, intention, and quiet joy. And somehow, that makes their story all the more compelling. Do you tune in to Fox News to watch Greg Gutfeld? And what do you think of his wife? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check out the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.